Hey everyone, I wanted to drop a quick video here and talk a little bit about some of our first time borrowers on the real estate side, even on the business capital side, but a little bit more emphasis on the real estate. One of the things that we've seen a lot of over the last couple of months, especially coming through the holidays, is that a lot of borrowers aren't necessarily familiar with the private capital world or how to deal with alternative capital institutions. And so, what we've seen for some of the borrowers, they will ask a lot of questions. They will try to figure out a lot of things on their own. And we've had quite a few kind of come back and say, wow, like, why do you need, a certain document, for example? And we explained to them that, when you switch from your typical conventional bank underwriting where they require, your last 2 to 4 years worth of tax returns, and they require, your last full 2 years of bank statements to prove that you've got this, and statements on your inventory, and all this documentation. In the private capital world, it doesn't work that way. When you're dealing more so on the real estate side, we're low doc, light doc. It's just about LLC docs and some type of bank statement or some type of retirement account that shows that you've got the liquidity or cash reserves in order to qualify for the deal. The process on the real estate side, our lenders will coordinate to order the appraisals and inspections and move the deal through, and coordinate with their title companies and insurance agent and all of those things once they have the information. And I could tell we had a lot of borrowers that seem to just get confused. They're thinking, well, that's so odd. I can't order the appraisal like myself. And it's kind of like, no, you no longer have a need to do that. The private capital world is so different. The documents that are collected are so much lighter, so to speak. Such a different process, less information needed, very specific data, but different nonetheless. The process can move, on our real estate side when we use the private capital partners, that you can get closings still today in the COVID world, 15 to 20 days. Um, you can get closings definitely within inside of the 30-day range, and from there it just things are just dependent upon the type of deal. But the borrowers that come to us, from the conventional side, they're not used to it, they're not accustomed, and so we should make no assumptions that they understand the process, and be prepared. When you're talking with the borrower and they say, look, this is my first time using private capital, take a moment and say, hey, listen, it's going to be completely different from what you're accustomed to on the conventional side. The documentation requirements are less. The rates are going to be higher, but it's because it's low doc, light doc. You're getting interest only terms on the real estate side of things, etc. So that side is going to be different. On the business capital side, we may only need one tax return, perhaps 6 months of bank statements to determine how do we fund them the cash that they need. And sometimes it's just a matter of just a soft credit pull and some documentation to get them approved for high loan amounts. So again, it's a different process. And when you're talking to borrowers and they come to the first call and you throw a list at them and say, hey, I need these 20 things, sometimes they don't know why. So it's good to stop for a moment, ask them, have you been through the private capital process before? And really take a moment just to talk to them, share with them like some of the differences that they'll go through. I'll give you a very specific example that's actually happened two, maybe three times now. We had, for example, one investor who needed to move quick on a deal. We got everything put in place. We asked her for I'm thinking of two off the top of my head that happened over the holidays. And we said, hey, listen, we need the rehab budget so that we can submit that with the file. And a couple of times we had two investors, it was their first times, and they disappeared for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And we kept calling saying, hey, we need the budget so that we can submit it along with the file to keep the pre-approval going, etc. And finally, I noticed that when they both came back, they kind of said, I was waiting forever on the contractor to give me the finalized budget, da da da. And I says, well, what about your estimates? We asked for weeks, just send us the estimate back and we'll keep things moving. They said, well, I didn't think you could use just the estimate. And it's kind of like, listen, when you applied for the loan, you put down that you've got one had a 25K rehab budget, another had 60K rehab budget, and they did not realize that just submitting the initial budget that they had, even though they were waiting on the completed budgets from the actual contractors, was all we needed. The thing is, they never stated that. They never really said it, and we continue to say, "Hey, this is weird. We just need the budget. How come we haven't received that yet?" And come to find out, they just didn't know why, because they were new borrowers coming into the private capital world and didn't understand it. So be sensitive to that as you're working with some of these newer borrowers. Help them understand that there's a difference in the process. And when you're asking for something, let them know, hey, these are the things that we need today. If you don't have that budget, give us your estimate that you have. And it's okay if you get the final one in, a week or two down the road from the GC. We understand they're busy too, and we can make any little adjustments we need to at that point. But your number is not really going to change significantly. If you're thinking it's around 60K, if they come in at 45, that's fine. If they come in right around 60, that's okay. If it's a little bit more, that's all right as well. So we wanted to really create this video today just to really stress and emphasize that it's worthwhile to be a little bit more attentive to some of these first timers that are applying. If they're not accustomed to it, some of them don't understand too. When you're in the conventional world, you were getting 5% rate until COVID came around with your bank, and then they've been out looking for financing, and then they see 8%, 10%, but it's 8 or 10% because it's strictly interest only money. It's short-term financing. There are no prepayment penalties associated with it, and it can move quickly, and that's the whole point and the value in using private money as necessary. So any questions, definitely hit us up. Send us an email at the info at. We're happy to help answer any questions that you may have in order to just service your potential borrowers better. Thanks, everyone.